Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I talk about comic books, movies, and TV shows. And as you guys can see, you can literally see us if you're watching us on YouTube, and you can see a person who we haven't seen in a really long time finally make his grand entrance of coming back to us and no longer being shamed, so we can go back to normal shaming scheduling by shaming Yendi and not watching the content that we watch.
Shame.
So
Man,
Chris is back, as you guys can see. I'm
Yeah.
happy to have him back. We are going to be talking about She-Hulk episode 1. Before we get into that, the normal things, spoilers are ahead. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff for us. It helps the channel, even if it's just one share, even if it's just one like, even if it's just one comment. So we really do appreciate that. We're not going to get too crazy into, us personally and where we've been. Just know life has been really busy, and
everybody's healthy and happy.
Everyone's
and,
healthy, happy.
We're ready to get back to it.
Exactly. And probably Tuesday's show will kind of explain it a little bit more if we do that. But anyway, getting right into it, we are going to be talking about She-Hulk episode 1. A normal amount of rage is what this episode is called. And Chris, I would like to know, before we actually get into the review of the episode, what was your expectations for this show? Were you a fan of She-Hulk prior, or is this like your first encounter with the character?
This is my first encounter with the character. I knew about her. I just never picked up a comic to read it. I didn't watch the trailer, but when I saw the clips of the courtroom, and that was it. And I was like, this is going to be a slower show. I don't know how I feel about this. So going into it, I went with low expectations of like, I don't know how this is going to play. And I didn't know that She-Hulk was a cousin or anything like that. And I came in confused, but I wrote it in my notes that they did a really quick like intro of like what's going on with her. And I was like, immediately I'm like, I'm good. All right, cool. and then they continue on. But so far I'm having fun with the show. Like I said, I didn't have any expectation going in, and I liked the idea. And for some reason, I don't know why, I thought the way she gets her powers, I'm like, oh, there was another experiment, accident, something.
I'll get into that.
Okay, I was about to say, when I saw that, I was like, oh, it's kind of simple. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, like, but then I thought about it. I was like, wait, I've seen him bleed quite a bit.
Yeah.
Throughout.
I'm gonna get into it for sure. Sure.
Yeah, but to answer your question, no expectation at all.
So for me, it was a little bit different. As you guys know, I always reading comics. She-Hulk has one of my favorite runs, just as far as a character, because of how many cameos and all that, which this show promises to give us. She, is a lawyer, so it's always fun to have that lawyer banter and things like that from the comic books that we always used to get. So me, I was already familiar with the character. Also, for all the people who are wondering, if you do want to get the first appearance of She-Hulk, it's Savage She-Hulk. It came out in 1980. It is a Stan Lee created character, so finding issue 1 to that will be a little bit difficult and pricey, but if everything goes well, you'll probably get more if you buy it. So whatever. But I already knew about the character. I knew about the relationship. As you guys know, I don't really watch trailers just because I don't want to set an expectation for myself, but also because I feel like a lot of those scenes are going to be out of context anyway, especially when you're dealing with TV shows. So and plus it's just, I feel like it's unnecessary to watch trailers, my personal opinion, because I know I'm going to go watch it. But
yeah, for me, that was real quick on the trailer thing, I haven't been avoiding trailers. I'm just gotten so lazy that I don't go looking for them now. I'm not like, oh, this came out, I gotta, like, if it pops up, I'll watch like a snippet of it, but most of the time I'm like, I'm gonna watch it anyway, and I'll scroll past it. So I'm kind of like, I just don't need it. Like I'm not there. But I'm not like you, where it's just like one of my favorite experience. I've only been to the movies with you twice, but one of them was Doctor Strange. That was years ago, and And I remember, what movie was it? Some trailer popped up, and Alan literally yelled. He's like, "Oh nope!"
Yep.
He closed his eyes, and he's like, "Tap me when it's
Don't want
over."
to see
And I
it.
was like, "What?"
Don't want to see it. Don't want to hear it. It's just unnecessary. Like, why am I going to get myself more hype than I normally am anyway going into any of these? So I don't see the reason for me to have to watch these trailers. But so again, I didn't watch this trailer. And obviously, I went into this episode fresh, with a few not really expectations. I don't want to say I was expecting things, but like, obviously I already knew a basis of the character and pretty much a premise of the character. Jen Walters is She-Hulk. It is played by Tatiana Maslany. I hope I said her name right, but I definitely know it's Tatiana is correct. But yeah, so going into the review, Chris, after you watched the first episode, what'd you think?
Um, the four I feel like I'm gatekeeping fourth wall breaking, but the fourth wall thing was like, okay, this is weird, because I
That's
want to
that
see.
that's a comic book thing she does that
Okay,
because she does do that. So
okay, because I'm so used to Deadpool that I'm like, okay, well, you know what I mean. It's one of those
mhm.
feelings. But first episode I enjoyed. I There was moments. The ending was basically a moment for me where I'm just like, okay, I feel like they ran out of money on this. Like they spent too much on this episode because I was not expecting to see Smart Hulk for a majority of that episode, which I'm sure was a lot. But the story, like I said, was cool. There, like, I had weird moments. So whenever they crash and she wakes up and she's not looking for Bruce at all, and I was like, okay, this is weird. Just left him. The spaceship thing was weird. Just left him. I'm sure we'll get more context later. Um, what else? I enjoyed the quick intro of like, this is what happened, this is what's going on, and catching me up to speed so the show can start. So they basically, the first episode was an origin story for her, just to catch us up to speed so they can just continue on with the show. I don't know. Do you know how many episodes this is?
This is supposed to be 9,
9.
if I'm not mistaken. 6, yes, it's supposed to be 9. They're also going to be shorter episodes because they're going for more of a sitcom feel, which is
Yeah.
kind of what the first show was. Um, I mean, which well, not the first show. I'm sorry, but what the first episode was, it did feel very sitcom-y, which not that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's just it did definitely feel that way.
Yeah.
The first
And
episode.
it feels more mature to me.
Hmm.
I don't think kids are gonna watch this and be like, be hyped about it. I'm sure they'll be hyped about the Hulk fighting scene and stuff like that. But other than that, I don't think they're gonna want to continue in a weird way. Um, but yeah, jumping to that, like the courtroom scene, I said it felt like they spent a lot of money on the scene between her and Hulk fighting each other. That it happened just so quickly and abruptly that I'm like, okay, I feel like there's something here that we're missing out on. And what else? Most part, I try to sit there and try to catch the Easter eggs. So I don't know about. They mentioned another cousin. I couldn't hear the name in the car. I don't know if he's going to be somebody or if that's a throwback to a character. And then Hulk identities is something new to me because I don't know. Is there only 3 right now, or is he saying there's multiple? There's more than that.
Well, Hulks?
Yeah,
No,
he's
they're just
it's
them.
okay.
Yeah.
Smart Hulk and all that.
Well, yeah. Well, he considered Banner has a different personality, which he was saying, like, and that was the difference between him and Jen when he was saying, Jen, he was like, you didn't turn into a Hulk, like, you're not, like, there's not another guy there, like, there's no one else. She's like, no, I just feel normal because she's basically just, inherited she just feels normal the whole time, while Banner is saying that he had to merge the two. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He merged the two. That's why he is able to, control it now differently than opposed to her, where she is very like she has had control, and that's a common trend. That's not like you know that's comic book accurate. That's always how it's been. She was always faster, but also I know there was people complaining about that, and like people think about things in context, please, because like obviously Jen is going to understand how to be faster controlling Hulk just because she's already had someone who's in her life who's had to deal with it. So naturally, even and if she is not struggling with another person inside of her, she's only feeling herself and then hulking out. Like you know what I mean? Like she's becoming like just stronger because she's staying herself. She doesn't have to deal with the battle that Bruce had to do, which is why he rips that first page and it's like, well, it looks like we won't have to deal with this because she's going through a different type of
Yeah.
transformation than Banner did. So
As it
I
would
saw a lot of
naturally happen, and it's
yeah,
also the whole um if they did take the route of like her going through Hulk again, then people are going to get bored with the story because they're like, we already got this. It's just a female
exactly.
version.
Hmm.
Um, and I felt for Hulk. I felt for Bruce there because it
Yeah,
was, you could tell he was frustrated because he's like, bro, I dealt with this for 15, 20 years now.
yeah,
And you got it in the first 5 minutes. Like, come on, man. So
yeah.
it definitely makes you feel for him there. Uh, I wanted to say, um, nope, I don't remember what I was gonna say.
Oh, good.
But the jealousy thing, I
Yeah,
enjoy him trying to make sure, like, I'm the better Hulk and all this other stuff, and how
yeah,
quickly
yeah.
she's
With
picked
the
up
rock,
on it. Yeah,
yeah,
and I like this is what I was gonna say. The story of the first time that we have somebody, is it? I think it's the first time where they don't want to be a hero. They're like, I don't want any of this. Like, I'm gonna learn to live with it, and I want to go back to my normal life, and I want my job. That's it.
yeah,
And instead of everybody that's like, um, like Kate Bishop throwing herself out there and like, okay, now a hero has to come save you because you didn't want to wait and train and do all this other stuff. So this girl's just like, I'm training literally so I can tell you that I'm okay and I want to go back to my normal life and I
yeah.
want you to leave me alone. And I kind of like that perspective of it.
Well, yeah, she's like she said, she's gone through countless times of lawyer school. She like imagine having to throw your whole life away,
Yeah.
especially for something that she worked for, right? So like it isn't like one of these things where she got her powers young. She's already an established woman. Like she's an attorney. She has her own office, like she was saying at the beginning. Like you know what I mean? Like obviously she doesn't want to like, and she knows vaguely of Hulk's life, right? She knows about the things that he has to go through and not wanting to have to deal with all of that, right? So like obviously it's nice to see on her end like you said someone who doesn't particularly want this. They kind of it kind of just sprung upon them and so I'll get into my issues and things about the show. Like don't get me wrong, I really did like this episode. I thought it was a great episode. I just thought a few things, and I tweeted this out where I said like Marvel shows are having a common issue, and that common issue is pacing. There's always a weird pacing issue with all these shows, whether it's for good or bad. It just seems like they can't get those first episodes to be properly paced the way that I feel it should be. And I feel like in this episode, the pacing issue was the whole transformation, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, it was a very convenient transformation, right? For those who don't know, the comic book version, Bruce actually saves Jen. She gets into like it's I don't want to say it's an accident, but something happens where he has to give her a blood transfusion. Like that's the last result. Like he
Oh,
wants to give her the like he's like the last hope is that I have to do this quickly and then give her this blood transfusion so she doesn't die. In that process, she obviously gets, the gamma blood and then it springs off on her. She becomes She-Hulk. I
gotcha.
don't know why they felt they couldn't go with that and they still gave us this because you could have done that for 5 minutes. That scene could have been 5 more minutes longer
Hmm.
in a 30-minute episode. Like, I don't see why you couldn't have added 5 minutes where Bruce obviously hulks out, like, you know what I mean? He grabs her, he takes her to the lab, and then, does the blood transfusion. That way, it also for me, I feel like you would have then made that bond a little bit stronger, right? Because it's like, look, I didn't want you to do this. Like, I didn't want to do this. This was a last result. I had to do this. Like, you know what I mean? So, and unfortunately, like, there's no cure for me to give you to in order to take this out. But like I did what I could do to save my cousin. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I feel like at that point you have a stronger connection between them because you know that Hulk saved her life. Like Bruce saved her life, saved her cousin's life. And like that's, but the way they did it, I just felt like it was too convenient. Car flips over. Oh, I so happen to cut myself on this weird piece that's hanging out. And then I'm going to try to go save my cousin, and his blood just happens to land on the spot that I just got cut, like that just got cut open. And then it's like, and then I conveniently hawk out in the forest and then just run away. Like,
Also, you're not gonna
you know
tell
what I
me that
mean?
these aliens, they crash the car and these aliens are like, oh, my bad, and then
Yeah. But obviously, but it's not even that. The Sicarians literally it stopped
yeah,
knowing who was in the car.
yeah, I
Like,
know.
you know what I mean?
That's what I'm
So
saying.
like I don't know. Like, I felt like we kind of brushed that over too quick, in my opinion. I felt like we could have spent a little bit more time with that situation, especially like I said, with the episode already being short. So I felt like you could have went into. I say that was probably like my biggest issue, and it's not really that big of an issue. I just feel like it was a little cheesy in the way and a little too convenient for her to be like, "Oh, I crashed." And like you said, we've seen Hulk bleed and we've seen other people get in fights. I know they try to retcon that, not retcon it, but try to explain it saying, "Oh, it's because we're related that it's worked on your blood and it doesn't work on other people's blood." Because he says that when they're looking at the DNA, he goes, "Oh, our blood, our DNA has this like a special thing that
To
it
calm
looks
it
like
down,
only
but
the
also he
yeah,
was saying that his blood, like, because he said it could be fatal. So I
yeah,
thought in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, if I got cut and I got his blood on me because my body couldn't handle what he can handle,
yeah."
it would kill me at some
Hmm.
point. So
Yeah.
that's what I was picking up from it. So I was just like, hold on.
Yeah, but then he kind of said like, "Oh, because we're related,
Yeah.
we kind of have like, you know what I mean." So I get that, but I just feel like the blood transfusion in this situation, where like, and I'm not saying you have to follow the comic origin the whole time. I just feel like there was no reason to not do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what was the? You still had the crash, like a crash. You still had a situation where she could have still used a blood transfusion, like if you made it a little bit more like of a dramatic crash, and then it would have been a nicer transition into getting to the lab anyway, right? And I felt like it would have been a little bit more seamless doing it that way. Besides that, the banter between them was great. I think she's fantastic. As Jen, the way that she portrays herself, the way that she has the conversations, the breaking of the fourth wall for me was exactly what it is in the comic books, which is why I loved it. So like when she's initially telling us the story, and she's telling us about her origin, I think it's a cool way to narrate. It's also a better way to the people who probably haven't watched any of the Deadpools to understand that there's another character who can do that. And for when Deadpool does make his way to the MCU, it's not going to feel weird because they're going to be like, "Oh, well, Jen does that also."
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's a nice transition in that sense for that. So I think that's going to be really cool. Um I enjoyed, like I said, the banter. I loved when I also loved the gap that we kind of bridged in Hulk's story, right? There was a big gap there that we didn't know what was going on and what Hulk was doing and during the blip and all that stuff. And we now know that him and Tony were like hanging out in Mexico and they built this, bar and laboratory like during the times while, Hulk was even like during the blip, during even times during when he comes back, you know what I mean? So I thought that was really awesome. Like once he came back, they kind of like him and Tony kind of still kicked it because they were friends, like you know what I mean, and they did have that bond even in the older Avenger movies. So I thought it was cool that him and then having the sign, but it's a nice way to kind of just have Tony also still be that presence, right? So like, yeah, Tony's gone, but we're gonna do things that make us not forget him.
Yeah.
So I thought they did a really good job at doing that, and just Hulk really portraying that and having those emotions and being like, look, I'm learning. I learned how to deal with becoming this. Like I've learned how to control this monster. I've learned to join together so we can have the best of both worlds, which is very comic book accurate. Also, I thought they did a real good job at portraying him doing all those things. I know that some people, the internet has been at war, of course, because they feel like they're being forced to listen to, trials and tribulations. All I'm gonna say to, the male audience out there, if you feel like, you know what I mean, you don't like what she's saying with that whole I know how to control my anger better than than Bruce, please go ask any of your, the women friends how much anger they have to control by doing exactly the things that she said. So for I know I've noticed this a lot online, and a lot of men saying like she doesn't have to bring that up. Like, does that make her better? It's like, no. Listen to the context of what she said. They're talking about anger. She's talking about how she's able to control anger because she deals with anger more than she
Nah,
feels
women don't
that
get
Bruce has to
angry.
do that. Like, you know what I mean? So the points that she's making, just because you don't understand them, doesn't mean those are things that don't happen.
Yeah.
So please, and don't try to justify, oh, she can't talk to Hulk like that because, and this is a trigger warning for earlier in the things when he was like, well, Hulk, Banner tried to commit suicide, right? So yes, but that's also that's a completely different trial, like with anger, and it doesn't unjustify Jen's meaning of anger or being able to control anger. Bruce was in a situation where he felt like this was his last hope, and it wasn't an anger at that point for him. He was literally saddened that he could not figure out what he needed to do in order to control the monster.
Yeah.
And that's not a moment of anger for him. So he was, going through demons and his emotions, and he resulted to that. But that doesn't mean it unjustifies Jen's premise of anger. So for you to come out and say, oh well, she can't, he had to deal with all that, it's an unfair like comparison. Like, it doesn't even make sense. So get over yourselves and just listen. Like, I mean, there's a point where you just have to listen and not react, and that's one of those moments. And I'm glad that they put that
Yeah.
in there, even though people are gonna, like, you're gonna have some of those male audience who complain about it. And and just, don't feel like you're always being threatened by like, it doesn't mean that all men, obviously they're not speaking to all men, but there's a large amount that this does happen. And that's why that's why women can tell you about the anger. And like I said, to go talk to any of them, any women, they will let you know. They will let you know the truth. And that's what you need to be conscious of, instead of try hating on the show because you feel like they're calling you
And
out.
if you can't hang, man, get off the bus. Just get off the bus.
Just
Nobody
stop
wants to hear
watching.
you bitch. Get
Thank you.
off the bus.
And if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to watch it. It'd be like, and the thing is, the crazy thing is to me is that people love to like refer to comic books and like how, like, I don't know what y'all have been reading, but these kind of things have been happening in the comic books also. Like, this has been the whole point of pushing that era. Like, you can't compare She-Hulk's character in the 80s, when rights and all those things were completely different, to the She-Hulk that's in the 2000s. Like, it's completely different. So like, be conscious of that stuff, and don't just come out, and especially don't comment on an episode you haven't watched, because I got into some with someone with that on Instagram, where they're like, oh, like, this is just a first impression, and they saw that clip, and I'm like, bro, did you know the context of the episode? Like, if you didn't watch the episode, you can't
You have
speak
no idea.
on this
Yeah.
context. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're speaking from a uncontext like point of view, and then now you're going to leave that up, and then you're not going to backtrack, because that's just not what you're going to do. So like, you're not going to backtrack and say, oh, I was wrong, let me take this down. You're going to keep that up because you're for the likes and all that stuff. So stop all that. Like, if you want to speak that way, that's on you, but don't speak on for everyone on that. Like, it's just not the case. But besides that, having to deal with the internet, I like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm excited to see where we go, especially with a lot of the hype. I want to say that they spoke about, of just genuinely saying the cameos, And I mean, I know there's one character that I'm dying to see that we're gonna see.
I'm just
I
ready to
mean,
see my
there
boy.
was no avoid. Yeah,
My
there was
boy's
no
in.
avoiding that. There was no avoiding that. I already know he's showing up. I'm not, but I'm not gonna say it if whoever's listening doesn't know. But if you are a Marvel fan, you probably know who it is. So, but yeah, overall, I thought it was a great episode, a great way to start. Like I said, probably a little bit of the pacing. I would have liked maybe 5 more minutes of this episode just because I enjoyed it. At the end there, we did see one of her villains, which is I'm obviously going to say her name wrong, but it's Tit Titiana, like basically is like
The actress's name?
No, that's not
Okay.
the actress's. The actress's name is Jamela. I know that.
It's
But she's the one who's
Titiana. Yeah, Titiana.
Titiana. It's something like that. And
Yeah.
obviously, I'm going to get it right once she says the name. If they say it, because we know Marvel usually doesn't say, which is an interesting one, doesn't say the name of their characters. But we will see that. I thought that was cool. That whole transformation at the end was dope, where she's just like, oh, I really like this suit, and like, and didn't want to have to transform. And then, but also just being calm enough and like taking care of business, and then being like, all right, I'm ready to do my closing statement now. Like after doing this amazing thing. And I love that she's told people, like, the people that's close to her know that she's She-Hulk. So she's like, do the thing. Like, now's the time where we need you to do that. Like, and then she's like, shoes, come on.
And
like,
it's funny
so
because she's like in front of everybody. She's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
we need to
now.
go.
Yeah. So I'm expecting, moving forward that this show, I do definitely think that if you're going to be in it for the action, you're not going to get as much action as you think you're going to get in this show. And that's really compliment to the comic books also, because She-Hulk did a lot of her action stuff while she was teaming with people. It wasn't a lot of her in her own book. It is a lot of lawyer related stuff. And just like Jen said anyway, she was saying that let's get back to this really cool lawyer show, which tells me that they're going to portray that more and then add in,
and we'll get filler too. We'll get filler of I hope we get more filler of the time in between with the blip and everything, because there's still a lot we don't know. Also, I'm planning on hearing more about the what do we hear in what was it? Falcon and Winter Soldier, the breaker, what was her name?
Which
Broker.
one?
Broker?
Mm-hmm. The broker.
I feel like we'll get more information about that underground.
Well,
area.
I think we'll see, because I'm not sure. It obviously depends. I mean, they're going to make her a superhero kind of attorney, so
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see, some of the things of how that is portrayed. So I'm excited. Every Thursday, I think, is a good time slot, a day too, also. So yeah, I'm excited for the next set, 8 episodes. I like where we started off. Like I said, I think the expectation though for this show is definitely if you're in it for action and stuff like that, this is not going to be the show for you. I can tell you that right now. Like, so don't go in being upset. There's no action. If you listen to this and you're expecting action, you are not going to get that much action in this show. You're going to get some, she will turn into Hulk. There's going to be a period where she's just going to be Hulk for a long time also. But as far as like action and like fight scenes and things like that, you're probably not going to get a lot of those. So
yeah, and
just
also
be prepared.
It's going to be the people that have been complaining about like, oh my god, we have too many superhero things right now.
Yeah.
And then we finally get like, okay, she's a superhero, but it's more calm. They're like, oh my god, we're not getting any
Where's the
action.
And it's like, just we can't please everyone.
Nope.
Again, if you don't like a show, just stop watching it.
Get
like,
off the bus.
You can watch other things. There's plenty of content to watch. Okay, especially just this week. I mean, getting into basically some of the things I watched. Tekken, The Bloodline, which is a great anime if you're on Netflix, but I might do a review on that one. And then, I mean, House of Dragons comes out on Sunday, so there's plenty of other things to watch if this is not for you. Okay, so Chris, we're gonna end it the same way we always do. What was your favorite part of this episode?
My favorite part of this episode. Okay. Yep. Huh?
I have to answer.
Think of a favorite part because you watched it with me. So, My favorite part of this episode, I'm gonna have to say the montage of him going through, like Hulk teaching her, like, hey, this is what we do now. Like, what's your favorite friend? Like, who's your best friend? Spandex is your best friend. All this other stuff. So I really like that moment of like, this is how you got to change your life, and because they are, I like that he's prepping her for. It's not when you change; it's when you're going to change. And that's what I liked about it. Is him trying to keep up with that. Do you have a favorite part or not really? My wife's next to me. Hold on. Special guest.
She should be in the show, you know.
Come on.
We need a especially for a show like this, you know.
Yeah, get in here.
We would love
I'm being forced
to
to
have
be on
Bree.
camera.
Yeah.
Hi.
Favorite part.
I liked the part whenever he had her in like the little
in the bar.
box. Yes.
Oh yeah.
And was just like, okay, we're gonna like test your abilities because usually like it happens whenever like you're angry or in fear or anything like that. And then she's like, okay, well, if it doesn't happen, is there a backup? No. And then like she just rips off the door, and then he's like, you know that's like $10 million, whatever,
millions
like
of dollars in the
millions
door.
of dollars. And then it was just the part where he was just like, wait, you don't have an altar right now? Like there's just one of you, and I've had to fight this other altar for 10 years.
That's what I was saying
like,
earlier.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
I love that part too. Just him trying to like deal with her being like already just one person, and she was like, oh, it was kind of blurry the first time, but now like I have all my memories.
Yeah, and then he just rips out the book. Like, well,
and he's just like, we don't need the first 27 pages of this chapters. So I definitely agree. My favorite part, I think I was a big fan of the fourth wall thing. It's an homage to the comics. She does do that in the comic books, and I love the way that she told us the story. And then even when she does it as Hulk, like technically for the first time, where she's just like, you know, like he doesn't really mean that. And then they kind of look at the camera and they both look like she's like, I just thought it was a nice subtle way to throwing that in, even though we already know she could do it because she did it at the beginning when she talks to us about becoming She-Hulk. So that's my favorite part. And like I said, I'm excited for the rest of the show. I think it's going to have a fun sitcom vibe. I think Tatiana was fantastic as Jen Walters, and I'm excited for what's coming next. So
yeah, and also a key thing for everybody, because I know Disney Plus will kind of force you to go to the next episode or what's next. There are end credit scenes for for this show, and the end credit scene is pretty good.
So they're supposed to be. We didn't even talk about that. The whole Cap being a virgin thing was fantastic, and then at the end she's like,
Captain Boo!
So yes, there's for confirmed, because a lot of the early screeners got the first 4 episodes. It is confirmed that the first 4 episodes for sure have end credit scenes.
Gotcha.
So be on the lookout for those. Don't turn in and don't get caught up watching Infinity War, because that almost happened to me. It was like, we suggest you watch Infinity Wars, and I was like, no, sir. Because I know where this rabbit hole takes me, and that's 6 hours down. And I was like, we ain't doing that today. So don't fall for it, guys. But that is going to be it for us. It was great to have Chris back. There's going to be content all week, guys. Definitely Chris and I will be next week doing episode 2 of this, but also be on the lookout for, if you guys have watched Prey, me and Richard dropped that one yesterday. It is on the podcast because I didn't do the video part, but I did ask Chris for all the video stuff, so I will be starting to do videos.
Alan's moving, so there's going to be some shows that I'm obviously not a horror fan, so I'm glad we have guests and stuff. From me,
And then we're also going to have House of Dragons with Allie. She was the one who did Stranger Things with me, so you guys be on the lookout for that. So thank you guys as always for joining us. Bree, thank you for being a special guest. We need to have you on the show one of these times, especially for a show like She-Hulk. Just saying.
Is that a sexist comment?
Huh?
Is that a sexist comment? No, I'm kidding.
He said the name of the show. This is why we don't have her on the show. There you go. Welcome to my life.
Subscribe.
I'd be down if it wasn't,
You're fine.
So last second.
You're beautiful.
Yeah, you're fine. So you're going to be ready next week is what you're saying. or the week after,
I
or
have
the
a
week after
baby
that.
shower next week and I get my hair done, so maybe.
Okay. Well, whenever you're ready, you let us know so you can be in. Okay.
Hit him with the outro, Alan.
All right. So we are going to end it here, guys. Let us know what you guys thought of the episode. Put it down in the comment. We'd love to hear what you guys say. We might even pick some of the best ones and talk about it next week. But until next time, Fire Team out.